Welcome to our channel, your perfect spot for enhancing spoken English with listening practice and inspiring stories. If you are new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon button for our insightful videos. Today, we're diving into the remarkable journey of Louis Vuitton, from humble beginnings to building a luxury brand empire. Once upon a time, in the quiet countryside of eastern France, in a tiny village called Angers, a boy named Louis Vuitton. He was born on August 4th, 1821. Life in Angers was simple, and Louis grew up surrounded by forests, fields, and the hum of hardworking people. But life at home wasn't so peaceful. As he got older, things became difficult with his stepmother, and the house he once knew no longer felt like home. So, at just 13 years old, barely a teenager, Louis made a bold decision. He packed up his dreams and set off on foot and aiming for the bright lights of Paris. That journey wasn't easy. It took him 2 whole years of walking, stopping in towns for food, doing odd jobs for a few coins, and sleeping wherever he could find shelter. But the hardships didn't break him. They shaped him. Finally, in 1837, when Louis was 16, he arrived in the bustling city of Paris. It was loud, crowded, and full of opportunity. That same year, he landed a job as an apprentice with a master craftsman named Monsieur Maréchal. Maréchal wasn't just any craftsman. He was one of the best boxmakers and packers in the city who known by the rich and royal. By the time Louis Vuitton had made a name for himself in Paris, he wasn't just crafting boxes. He was crafting a reputation. His work had become the go-to choice for wealthy travelers who wanted their belongings packed with care and carried in style. But Louis had a bigger dream. He didn't just want to work for others. He wanted to build something of his own. So, in 1854, with a head full of ideas and a heart full of courage, Louis opened his very first shop right in the heart of Paris, at 4 Rue Neuve des Capucines. This was no ordinary shop, and Louis was no ordinary craftsman. He wasn't just selling luggage, he was changing the way people traveled. Back then, travel trunks had rounded tops so rain could slide off, but that also made them clunky and impossible to stack. Louis thought, what if luggage could be smarter? So he designed something brand new. Flat-topped trunks covered in a sleek material called Trianon canvas. These trunks were light, strong, and, best of all, stackable. It might sound simple now, but at the time, it was revolutionary. By 1858, Louis's smart trunks were the talk of the town and beyond. Wealthy travelers, explorers, and even royalty wanted one. But with popularity came copycats. Imitators started popping up and trying to cash in on his designs. Louis wasn't about to let them steal his thunder. To protect his work, he got clever with patterns. In 1876, he introduced a striped canvas design called rayé. It gave his trunks a signature look that made fakes easier to spot. But he wasn't done yet. In 1888, he launched the damier canvas, a checkered pattern that proudly displayed the words Marque L. Vuitton déposé, which means Louis Vuitton registered trademark. Louis kept innovating, improving, and building his brand until his final days. When he passed away in 1892, he left more than just a successful business. He left a legacy. His son, named Georges Vuitton, would soon step in, ready to take the family name to even greater heights. Georges had watched his father build something truly special, and now it was his turn to carry the torch and take it even further. Georges wasn't just interested in continuing what his father started. He had much bigger plans. His dream? To take Louis Vuitton global. He wanted people in London, New York, and Tokyo to recognize the name just like they did in Paris. And he had a brilliant idea to help make that happen. In 1896, Georges created something iconic, something that would become one of the most recognizable patterns in the world: the Louis Vuitton monogram canvas. It wasn't just a pretty design, it was a statement, a bold, proud tribute to his father. The pattern featured the interlocking LV initials, along with floral symbols and quatrefoils, those little four-point stars and shapes, all inspired by Japanese and Oriental art, which was hugely popular at the time. But the monogram wasn't just about beauty. It had a purpose. Georges knew that knockoffs were a growing problem, so this stylish canvas was also a clever move to fight against counterfeiting. No one could copy the real thing without standing out like a sore thumb. With the monogram shining like a badge of luxury, Georges began expanding the brand across the globe. He took Louis Vuitton trunks to international exhibitions, formed partnerships, and introduced the name to the world. People from all over, especially in the booming United States, started falling in love with the elegance and quality of Louis Vuitton luggage. Then came a grand milestone. In 1914, Georges opened a store like no other, the largest travel goods store in the entire world, right on the glamorous Champs-Élysées in Paris. This was more than a shop. It was a temple of travel, a symbol of the luxury lifestyle that Louis Vuitton had come to represent. After Georges Vuitton passed away in 1936, the reins of the family business were handed to his son, Gaston Louis Vuitton. It was a big responsibility for Gaston, but he was determined to keep the family legacy alive and thriving. However, just a few years later, the world was plunged into the chaos of World War II. Europe was torn apart, and Paris itself was no exception. The war put a huge strain on many businesses, including Louis Vuitton. The once bustling city of Paris was now under occupation, and the fashion world was left reeling from the changes. Despite the war's grip on the world, Louis Vuitton wasn't about to fade into history. Gaston Louis had inherited his father's fierce determination and passion for quality, and he worked hard to keep the brand going. Even though many luxury brands were suffering or shutting down, Louis Vuitton stayed open, continuing to craft its high-end trunks and travel bags, though now with fewer resources and more challenges. But with the war came its own set of dark controversies. There were accusations that the company had collaborated with the Nazi regime during the occupation of France. These accusations have been part of the company's history that is often debated, and though the details remain murky, the difficult political climate of the time made things complicated for many businesses, Louis Vuitton included. Despite the turmoil, the company found a way to endure. Gaston Louis kept the focus on what the brand did best: travel gear. But this time, with the war causing major shifts in how people lived and traveled, Louis Vuitton began adapting. They introduced lighter, more portable designs, making it easier for people to carry their things as travel became less glamorous and more utilitarian. The designs became more practical without sacrificing luxury. Trunks became easier to pack and move, while still keeping the signature style that people loved. The world was changing, But Louis Vuitton found a way to stay relevant and continue serving those who needed quality travel goods, no matter the circumstances. It wasn't easy, but the spirit of Louis Vuitton had proven one thing: resilience is in its DNA. By the time the 1950s and 60s rolled around, Louis Vuitton had already established itself as the go-to name in luxury travel. But the world was changing, and so were the people who traveled. No longer were they just wealthy aristocrats heading off on grand voyages. Now, the world of luxury was opening up to a broader crowd. Louis Vuitton had to keep up with the times, and Gaston Louis Vuitton's successors were ready to expand. In this exciting new era, Louis Vuitton introduced a wave of iconic products. There was the Keepall, the perfect travel bag for the jet-setters of the time, combining style and practicality. Then came the Noé, a bag originally designed in 1932 to carry champagne bottles. Because what's better than having your favorite bubbly travel in style? It became a hit with Parisian women, eventually becoming an icon in its own right. And who could forget the Speedy bag? Launched in the 1960s, it was small, chic, and ready for anything, a must-have for fashionable women everywhere. But Louis Vuitton wasn't just about bags and trunks anymore. It was starting to become something bigger, much bigger. In 1987, a massive change came to the brand's future. Louis Vuitton merged with two powerhouses, Moet et Chandon and Hennessy, two of the most famous names in the world of champagne and cognac. This wasn't just a merger, it was a power move, creating LVMH, Louis Vuitton Moet Hennessy, the world's largest luxury goods conglomerate. The brand wasn't just about travel gear anymore. It was about the entire luxury lifestyle: champagne, fine spirits, fashion, and beyond. Louis Vuitton was officially entering the big leagues. As the 1990s dawned, the brand's influence only grew. In 1989, Louis Vuitton made another major move. It went public, opening up its stock to the world. Investors lined up, eager to get a piece of the luxury empire, and Louis Vuitton's reach stretched further across the globe. From just a humble trunk maker in Paris, Louis Vuitton had become a global luxury symbol, and with the birth of LVMH, it was now part of an empire that redefined what it meant to be luxurious. The 1990s were an exciting time for Louis Vuitton, so much so that the brand needed something new, something fresh to match the changing energy of the world. Enter Marc Jacobs. In 1997, the fashion world was shaken when Louis Vuitton appointed him as its very first creative director. Marc wasn't just any designer. He was a bold, daring visionary, and Louis Vuitton was about to get a whole new vibe. Marc came in and immediately made waves. He didn't just stick to what was working. He reimagined what Louis Vuitton could be. The first major move? He launched Louis Vuitton's very first ready-to-wear line. For the first time, Louis Vuitton wasn't just about luxury bags and trunks, it was about fashion too. The clothing collection hit like a storm, and suddenly Louis Vuitton wasn't just a brand for the elite who traveled in style. It was for the fashion-forward people who wanted to wear the luxury, not just carry it. But Marc didn't stop there. He took Louis Vuitton's signature monogram canvas and gave it a bold, youthful twist. One of the first collaborations he made was with Steven Sprouse, an artist known for his graffiti style. Together, they turned the iconic monogram into something totally new: graffiti. Bright, spray-painted LV letters covered bags and accessories, making them feel edgy and rebellious, all while keeping that undeniable Louis Vuitton luxury. It was a risky move, but it paid off. This was something no one had seen before, and the fashion world loved it. Then, Mark went even further. He teamed up with Takashi Murakami, a Japanese artist known for his colorful and playful work. Murakami took the monogram to the next level by adding a rainbow of colors to the pattern, creating a multicolored monogram canvas that felt like a celebration. It wasn't just a handbag anymore. It was a piece of art. The bags weren't just for the rich. They were for anyone who loved creativity, pop culture, and style. These collaborations didn't just refresh the brand. They brought a whole new generation of fans to Louis Vuitton. People who might have never considered Louis Vuitton before were now lining up for the newest, bolder designs. The collaboration with artists helped solidify Louis Vuitton's status as more than just a luxury brand. It became cool, youthful, and a staple of pop culture. Under Marc Jacobs, Louis Vuitton wasn't just about luxury. It was about making a statement, mixing fashion with art, and breaking boundaries. Marc gave the brand a new energy, making it relevant not just in the fashion world, but in every corner of culture. After Marc Jacobs's groundbreaking run with Louis Vuitton, the brand was ready for the next phase of its evolution. In 2013, Marc Jacobs said his goodbyes, and Nicolas Ghesquière stepped in to take the reins of women's wear. Nicolas wasn't interested in repeating what had come before. Instead, he brought a fresh, architectural touch to the collections: clean lines, bold shapes, and designs that felt both futuristic and timeless at the same time. His collections played with structure and form, adding a modern sophistication that was exciting and new. Louis Vuitton was no longer just about luggage. It was now shaping the future of fashion. But the most game-changing moment came in 2018 when Virgil Abloh was named Artistic Director of Menswear. It was a historic moment, not just for Louis Vuitton, but for the fashion industry as a whole. Virgil Abloh, the designer behind Off-White and a creative force in music, fashion, and culture, became the first African-American artistic director of a major fashion house. This wasn't just about making history. It was about reshaping the conversation around luxury fashion. Virgil's impact on Louis Vuitton was immediate. He blended streetwear with high fashion, creating collections that were not just for the runway, but for the streets, for the young, and for anyone who saw fashion as a way to express themselves. He didn't just design clothes. He told stories through his pieces, using cultural references, bold graphics, and an incredible mix of influences that resonated with people around the world. His work wasn't just about luxury. It was about connecting with the culture, blending the past with the present, and redefining what high fashion could be. His success was undeniable. Virgil's collections were both commercially and critically successful, and they gave Louis Vuitton an entirely new audience. He managed to make luxury streetwear a thing and brought a sense of authenticity and realness to the brand that had never been there before. Sadly, Virgil passed away in 2021, leaving behind an immense legacy. But Louis Vuitton wasn't done. In 2023, Pharrell Williams, the legendary music producer and fashion icon, stepped into Virgil's shoes as the new artistic director of menswear. Pharrell's appointment continued Louis Vuitton's tradition of staying connected to culture, music, and art. Known for his collaborations, boundary-pushing style, and influence on pop culture, Pharrell was the perfect fit to carry the torch forward, continuing to blend fashion with music and creativity. Louis Vuitton's journey from a small boxmaker in Paris to a global fashion icon has been nothing short of extraordinary. With each new chapter, each new designer, it's continued to push the boundaries of luxury, constantly evolving while staying true to its roots. And with creative visionaries like Nicolas, Virgil, and Pharrell, Louis Vuitton remains one of the most powerful and influential brands in the world today. Louis Vuitton isn't just a brand, it's a symbol of timeless luxury that has stood the test of time. Decades have come and gone, but this iconic label remains one of the most valuable and recognizable names in the world. From the moment Louis himself started crafting trunks in Paris, the company's journey has been nothing short of extraordinary. Louis Vuitton's legacy is more than just bags and trunks. It's a cultural influence that's shaped fashion, travel, and style for over 150 years. It's a brand that connects generations, brings people together through creative collaborations, and leaves its mark on both high fashion and pop culture. The story of Louis Vuitton is one of constant reinvention while staying true to the ideals of quality, craftsmanship, and elegance that started with that very first trunk. And as the brand continues to innovate and inspire, it's clear that Louis Vuitton's legacy is just getting started.